Welcome to Sagashade channel. In a time not so long ago, a boy named Kachalak lived with his old, poor mother. Kachalak was very lazy and had no interest in working or even leaving the house. No matter how much his mother urged him to go outside and do something, Kachalak always made excuses and avoided any kind of work. One day, Kachalak's mother, exhausted from the situation, handed him some money and angrily said, "Take this money and leave the house. I don't want to see you here anymore. Go, learn something, do some shopping, or do whatever you know how to do." With no choice, Kachalak left the house. However, since he had no experience with the city and its streets, he wandered aimlessly, walking back and forth without knowing what to do or where to go. As he walked, he suddenly reached the wall of a large garden. This garden belonged to the king, with tall walls and lush trees that could be seen from over the top. Kachalak became curious and stopped to look. Suddenly, a sweet voice singing a song reached his ears. The voice was as beautiful and uplifting as the song of birds. Captivated by the sound, Kachalak decided to find out where it was coming from. He struggled to climb the tall wall of the garden. When he reached the top and looked inside, he saw a beautiful girl walking in the garden singing. The girl was none other than the king's daughter. Kachalak, who had never seen such beauty, immediately fell in love with her. Without considering that she was the king's daughter and that reaching her would be extremely difficult, Kachalak made a vow to himself to win her heart at any cost. From that moment on, Kachalak's life changed, and he decided to endure any hardship to be with her. Kachalak returned home, unable to stop thinking about the beautiful girl. He lost his appetite and couldn't sleep. Eventually, he spoke to his mother and revealed his secret love. When Kachalak asked his mother to go to the king and ask for the princess's hand in marriage, his mother tried to explain that the king wouldn't even allow them to look at his daughter, let alone bring her to their humble home. But Kachalak wouldn't listen. After much insistence, his mother finally agreed to go. After a lot of back and forth, the old woman eventually managed to meet the king, and as expected, she was met with his anger and scorn. Despite this, the old woman returned to the palace several more times at Kachalak's insistence, only to be turned away each time. Finally, the king decided to have her executed for her repeated audacity, but his vizier stopped him from doing so. The vizier suggested that instead of spilling the blood of the old woman, it would be better to discourage her in the same way the king discouraged many other suitors by throwing large stones in front of him. The king liked this suggestion and told the old woman, "If your son acquires great wealth or learns something so special that no one else can do, I will allow him to marry my daughter." Upon hearing this, Kachalak decided to learn a unique skill that would help him improve his life and reach his love. He thought long and hard and decided to pursue something completely different from the usual professions. Kachalak had heard of an old, wise man who was skilled in the art of magic. After some inquiries, he learned from the town's apothecary, who happened to sell goods to the magician, that the old man was at a spring outside the city. Quickly, Kachalak went to his mother, and they set out for the spring. They found a spot under the shade of a tree near the spring. Suddenly, an old man appeared from the water, standing on it. He raised his hands toward the sky, and butterflies appeared from his fingertips and flew away. Kachalak and his mother realized that this was the magician they had been searching for. Kachalak's mother approached the magician and, after much flattery, invited him to sit under the tree. After a while, she sighed and, with tears in her eyes, complained about her son's laziness and asked the magician to take him as an apprentice. The old man, after some thought, agreed. However, he did not want to teach the young stranger his full magical arts, fearing a new rival. He decided to teach him only simple, basic magic and use him for hard labor around the house and garden. Thus, they went together to the magician's garden. After some time living in the large, lush garden of the old magician, Kachalak, who had realized that the magician was not teaching him all the magical arts, decided to secretly go down to the magician's creepy basement at night. There, he would study the books and learn all the magical skills. The magician's daughter, named Marjan, had followed Kachalak for a few nights and found out what he was doing. One night, she went down to the basement. Kachalak was startled and asked her what she was doing there. Marjan warned him that if her father found out that he had learned the magical arts and was doing anything other than serving, he would immediately spill his blood. Kachalak was a little scared and thought for a moment, but he overcame his fear because his love for the king's daughter was stronger than his fear. He decided to stay focused and continue learning the secrets of magic from the magician's books. However, he pretended to be foolish in front of the magician so that his secret wouldn't be revealed. After Kachalak became proficient enough in magic, he requested permission from the magician to leave, claiming he missed his mother. The old man disagreed at first, but Kachalak cleverly pretended to be in poor mental health, suffering from the sorrow of being away from his mother, and eventually convinced the magician to let him go. When Kachalak returned to his mother, he decided to use magic to earn money and build wealth to win the king's favor. Every morning, he would go to the empty stable of their house and use magic to transform himself into valuable animals, such as a purebred horse, a racing ram, a beautiful deer, or a rare donkey. Beforehand, he would tell his mother, "Go to the stable today and sell the animal that's there for this price in the market. But make sure you don't sell the harness along with it and bring it back home." The reason for this was that if someone bought the animal with the harness, the magic would be broken, and Kachalak would remain stuck in the form of the animal and wouldn't be able to revert back to his human form. For the first, second, and third days, his mother successfully sold the horse, ram, and deer to wealthy courtiers. However, on the fourth day, the old magician, who had gone to the market, happened to see Kachalak's mother with a donkey. He immediately recognized it. Upon seeing the donkey's shape, the experienced magician quickly deduced that it wasn't a real animal, but a human in disguise. Therefore, he decided to buy the donkey from the old woman and kill Kachalak. The old woman, due to her age and forgetfulness, did not recognize the magician and sold him the donkey. However, she refused to sell the animal's harness. The magician, after offering a high price, finally convinced her to sell the harness as well. The magician rode Kachalak, still in the form of a donkey, back to his home and asked his daughter to bring him a knife. Marjan, who had recognized Kachalak in the form of the donkey, tried every trick she could to save him from death. She took the knife to the pond under the pretense of washing it and threw it into the water. Then, she pretended to be afraid of the water and asked her father to retrieve the knife from the pond. The magician handed her the donkey's reins and went into the pond. Marjan immediately took the reins from the donkey's mouth, and Kachalak swiftly turned into a dove and flew away. The magician, unwilling to let Kachalak escape, quickly transformed himself into a sharp-eyed eagle and chased after him. The chase continued until they reached the courtyard of the king's palace. There, Kachalak transformed into a rose growing on the trunk of a tree. The king, seeing the old man who had come to his court, thought he was a poor, feeble man and ordered a small sum of money to be given to him to satisfy him. However, the magician, instead of asking for money, requested to pluck the rose from the tree. When Kachalak saw this, he turned into a ruby on the king's robe, and the magician immediately asked for the ruby. The king, astonished, allowed the magician to take the ruby from his robe. However, Kachalak quickly transformed into pomegranate seeds, scattering himself across the ground. The magician instantly turned into a rooster and began eating the pomegranate seeds from the ground. Suddenly, Kachalak became a fierce jackal and devoured the rooster in one bite. He then returned to his human form and bowed before the king. The king, who recognized him, was astonished to learn that this young man had not only gained considerable wealth, but was also capable of doing something that others could not. The king kept his promise and allowed Kachalak to marry his daughter. After marrying the king's daughter, Kachalak learned from his experiences and decided to build his life through hard work. He understood that love and perseverance could make even the most impossible dreams come true. Thus, the story of Kachalak, who transformed from a lazy boy into a hardworking hero, became a legend, and his name was remembered among the people.